Laboratory Award that we partner with Dallas HR on. We also host one of the largest on-site global TA Day events in the US, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again in the next, maybe this year, next year. And we invite industry experts to lend their knowledge and talent acquisition strategies so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've got an announcement from Mr. Goldberg here. Michael, do you want to give us your announcement?
I do. So March 17th and 18th, the Talent Board, which governs the Candidate Experience Awards, is putting on a Candidate Experience Conference. It's virtual, it's free, and the link there is in, well, will be in a second, hold on, in the chat. I know Mike is speaking at it. I'm moderating a panel on it with Jim D'Amico and a couple other people from outside Dallas. But it should be a great event. Like I said, it's free. It'll touch, not only will it touch candidate experience, it'll touch employment branding, recruitment marketing, and a variety of other recruiting topics, including sourcing and recruiting. So if you have some time and you just want to have it on in the background, I know that the Talent Board would appreciate you signing up. So the link's in the I'm not tapping my desk, Mr. Cohen, but you're all set. So basically, hit that link. It takes less than a minute to sign up. It's through an Eventbrite, and you should be good to go.
Fantastic, thank you. And we cannot put on our DFWTRN events without our sponsors. So I would like to say that our first sponsor for today's meeting is Hiring Transformed. So back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Doug. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Goldberg, and I'm the CEO and founder of Hiring Transformed. And so what we do is we partner with startup organizations that are getting prepped to go through hypergrowth. We work with medium-sized organizations if they need like a recruiting audit and they need services. So I help both internal corporate recruiting departments as well as agencies that might need that help around processes, tools, technologies. Also help evaluate your recruiting tech stack, and then also do a lot of training for recruiters, sourcers, and of course, hiring managers. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to check out the website, www.hiringtransform.com. Thanks, Doug.
Awesome, thank you. Divergent Academy, they provide IT training and offer a fresh pipeline of talent for free. So if your organization or your customer could use recent IT trained professionals, you can reach out to our sponsor, Divergent Academy, or reach out to DFWTRN. We'll help connect you to the individual over there. Another sponsor of ours is Visage Jobs. Visage is a sourcing technology that blends 4,000 sourcers and AI to find talent quickly. So if you need a little talent boost there, recruiting boost, they're a great organization to do that with. Skill Survey, they're the #1 automated reference checking software used by employers, and we use it ourselves. It's a great resource for not only checking references on your candidates, but also creating a pipeline of potential customers if that works within your business model. And Labor IQ by ThinkWhy. Ann, did you want to say something, or do you want me to go ahead and say something there?
I'll share some information about Labor IQ by ThinkWhy. So my company name is ThinkWhy. Our product is Labor IQ, and we are a data platform that bridges the gap between talent and market intelligence. What the heck does that mean, right? Well, we do that to provide you with precise, real-time compensation data so that you can manage compensation costs based upon current market dynamics. A lot of compensation information out there is more historical. We also do a lot of in-depth market analysis and forecasts to help you guide your business. We work with a lot of staffing and recruitment firms to help them guide their business, advise their clients. We also work with a lot of internal HR to, align people and business strategies and work on things like expansion opportunities as well as sales and marketing efforts. So precise real-time compensation data, a lot of market analysis, and you could check us out at thinkwhy.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ann. Today's speaker, y'all know Mike Batman Cohen. He's a sourcing guru and founder of Wayne Technologies, a contract sourcing recruitment training organization.
Oh my God, please don't read a bio. It's so embarrassing. I feel like an awkward turtle when people read my bio out loud. Sorry.
Well, you know what? It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the great things about him is that, his approach to sourcing is based on deliverables and transparent data and items that are actually very important to our audience and how we go out and source and train. So I won't read the whole script there on you, but you can tell us a little bit about your background, Mike. And, we're just glad to have you here today. So I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Swell. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll talk about myself in a little bit in the presentation, which is already awkward enough. But I had somebody in a conference like 2 weeks ago read my entire bio. It's like a 1-page bio, and I wanted to just crawl into a hole and die.
Oh, I cut it down to a paragraph.
Yeah, no, it was good. And you threw some of your own stuff in there. I didn't hear it. It was just, it was like listening to yourself speak. It's just, oh God, I can't handle it. So, hey, everybody, we're going to go over like sourcing data and metrics. We're going to cover 2 different things, the difference between sourcing and recruiting, and then the difference between metrics and KPIs. For many people, either of those or both of those are synonymous, and neither of them are. And I'm going to explain to you why. David, I obviously wear a mask. I do not wear a cape. It gets caught in things. But good point otherwise. I will be checking the chat. So quick notes. If you have questions, either put it in the chat or preferably unmute yourself and interrupt me. It's not rude. I'm from New York. We use swearing, sarcasm, and interruptions to communicate. You're welcome to use all 3.
And I'll help you out on that, Mike. I'll be on the lookout.
Yeah, I've got it up over here. So yes. Yeah, that'll be fun. Are we recording this? Okay, so I won't say the F word. Perfect. Okay, got it. On it. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll kick this off. Remember, questions, don't hold them till the end. We're not going to have a ton of time because I talk too much. So please speak up if you have any questions. I have everybody's camera up on this screen over here, chat over there. Great. Why did I decide to start my own firm versus working for someone else? Because I've been fired from every job I've ever had. I'm what you would call commercially unemployable. I'm very good at what I do and very terrible to have as an employee. I own it. I'm not proud of it, but like, yep. So sourcing data, metrics, nerdy. If you understand what this means down here, we could probably hang out and geek out together. If you don't, I'll give you 5 seconds to analyze it, and then I will explain it because it's math, and I love math. It stands for I ate some pie. Square root of -1 is I, and then ate some pie. And it was delicious. So a little bit about me. I am the founder of Wayne Technologies. We are a group of sourcing subject matter experts. It's literally what we do, and we wear cool t-shirts. So we do on-demand sourcing. So companies who need either a contract sourcer or just like sourcing done on an individual role, you can turn us on, turn us off, and it's quick and easy. I'm a conference speaker because I love giving back to the community, and I'm an attention whore. So it works out really well to speak at conferences and do webinars. On the note of being an attention whore, I also teach indoor cycling. Do I love indoor cycling? No. Would I ever take anybody else's class? Absolutely not. I can't imagine how people would want to come and sit in one place for an hour, but I get to be the center of attention, tell people what to do, and listen to my own music. So it's basically the perfect workout for me. I am constantly pushing limits. I do this professionally, as most people can see, based on my snarky attitude and the way I approach technology. Hannah, I teach at 24 Hour Fitness. I used to teach at Cycle Bar. The Cycle Bar down here was at, the hell is it called? It's in the back of the Woodlands. I know that doesn't help you in any way whatsoever. It's off Kirkendall. I'll remember the name of it. It's been, Waterside, dope. Yeah, I haven't taught at Cycle Bar in a little while because they're a shit show down here. It's one swear word. So I'm sharing these pictures because it's a big thing for me to push through pain and discomfort. In 2017, I ran the New York Marathon. In 2018, I did a half Ironman. If you've ever seen me in person, you know that I have neither the body type nor physique to do either of those. But it is something I love. I love pushing the limits. I love extending myself beyond what I think I can do. And that shows also in what we're going to talk about data-wise and sourcing-wise. I do love GIFs and memes. If you do not like GIFs and memes, this is going to be a brutal talk for you. I am a dog lover. Those are my two babies, Blue on the left, Honey on the right. I love them more than 99% of the people I know. And I'm married to an amazingly cool human who is just way, way cooler than I am. And this is a picture from our wedding. We actually put on a play for our ceremony because that seemed like a good idea at the time. It wasn't. And one of the things I love is the idea of Flossom, is the idea that we are all flawed and we are all awesome. And I try to live by that, and I appreciate others when they do that also. Own your shit. It doesn't define you. We're all totally effed up, and that's awesome. So that being said, let's look at the agenda. We're going to go over sourcing versus recruiting. This is a really heated topic for me, so I'm going to sound really heated. Know that that's true and coming from the depths of my soul. We're going to talk about data points. We're going to talk about why they matter and how to get them. So that basically means looking at metrics, KPIs, kind of what stories they tell, and then how we actually acquire those. Is it $1 per swear, Snyder? If it's $1 per swear, I'm on the over of $10. So sourcers versus recruiters. I actually sent out a poll, and when I put this together, I had 182 responses around sourcing versus recruiting and metrics. And you'd be surprised. Most people believe that sourcers and recruiters are very different, like 130 out of the 182. 6 people believe that they are the same, and most of them are in HR. Surprise, surprise. And then you get into the random pieces of like, are sourcers junior recruiters? Are recruiters junior sourcers? There are certain people who believe that. They're all wrong, but they do believe that. And then there were about 37 people who believe that sourcers and recruiters are the same or very similar. And while they are entitled to their opinions, they are wrong. And we're going to go over why. So if you look up online, the Google machine tells you that sourcers are way better than recruiters, at least based on public opinion. And so here's kind of what we were talking about. I asked a lot about the metrics, and I asked what would make a good sourcer and what would make a good recruiter. And you wouldn't believe there were a ton of different answers around what makes a good whatever of each. And so one piece of it is kind of where the sourcing and recruiting divide cuts off, which I understand. There's some gray area where people have opinions as to what should and shouldn't be a recruiter's job versus a sourcer's job. But sourcer, the main things that were shared, top 3, curiosity, research, and then creative / resourceful, and the different words that kind of comprise that. There were only 3 people who put the same thing for what makes a good recruiter and a good sourcer. So why do I believe that they are so fundamentally different? Here is an overarching summary of the pipeline. From sourcing all the way through processing, which is the scheduling, the feedback, the onboarding, the et cetera, right? So as you'll see, the sourcing, in my opinion, is obviously the sourcing because it's literally the same name. You can't argue that, bring it. The messaging, which I believe sourcers should be doing. And then there is some overlap on some people who believe that screening candidates is a sourcer's job. I do not. And we're going to talk about that for a hot second, not right at the moment, though. So here's how I like to think about it. Too many people use the phrase, the funnel, the recruiting funnel. Here's the thing. That's a shitty analogy. It's $3, Jim. Why is it a shitty analogy? $4. Because a funnel, you get the same amount of water at the bottom that you put in the top. And if you're telling me that every person who applies to your job gets hired, you're either doing something very right or very wrong. And I want to talk to you either way. The goal of the pipeline is to filter things out, right? Filter out more things at the top and then get more gritty, kind of like a sifter or a sieve, right? Sourcers, in my opinion, should be the top of this, Recruiters should be towards the bottom. They're really dealing with the fine mesh strains. So we're going to stop here for 2 seconds and talk about sourcing versus recruiting. Oh, I'm definitely muting you. Sorry. I have ADHD, so if I mute you, please understand. It's because you didn't ask your question soon enough, and I lost focus. So we're going to talk about this real quick. I'm not sharing for this one. Is sourcers versus recruiters? Where does it cut off? Who does what? And so what I like to look at is the psychology of the human behind the role, right? So sourcers tend to be research nerds, data focused, love the technology piece. I always make the joke, but it's only kind of a joke, that if you showed a huge spreadsheet with a bunch of formulas and data validation to a sourcer, they're going to be like, oh yeah, this is right. Like Mr. Burns, like excellent. You show that to a recruiter and they're like, cool. Okay, cool, right? Conversely, if you told the sourcer like, hey, I've got 8 phone calls with awesome candidates for you today, they're going to call out sick, right? A recruiter's going to be like, yeah, this is awesome. So it's just a general approach. Now, a lot of people right now are saying, well, I like both. Yeah, totally cool. I'm not saying you can't do both or that you wouldn't be successful at both. I'm saying at the end of the day, one of these is going to cause you burnout significantly faster than the other. Right? I was a full desk agency recruiter for 11 years, right? The sales, the sourcing, the recruiting. I get it. I did both, right? I was okay at both. But I learned over time that like I actually hate talking on the phone, right? I'm a millennial, does not appeal to me in any meaningful way whatsoever. So I now focus on the sourcing piece and the data piece. So where do I think this should cut off in the line? I do not believe that sourcers should be making phone calls and talking to candidates on the phone. There's a few reasons. Number one, most sourcers don't love doing that. Number two, it's a waste of time for a sourcer to be doing that as opposed to finding more candidates when you could hire somebody as a recruiter who loves talking to people to actually screen and build a relationship. Number three, most importantly, it's shitty candidate experience, $5. So the candidate experience piece, think about going on a date with somebody, right? First date, you're talking, you guys get a little deep, not like super deep, right? You're not like talking about the skeletons in the closet and like, you know, the rough parts of like having a younger sister used to annoy the shit out of you and then get you in trouble with your parents, hypothetically. But you are getting a little deep, right? You're sharing some information about yourself. Now, imagine then going on a second date and the person saying, hey, had a great time. I'm actually going to introduce you to my good friend, Johnny. Don't worry. I told him all about you. Right? You're going to be like, yeah, but I don't fucking know Johnny, right? Like Johnny didn't tell me anything. I don't trust. And that's going to be a candidate's opinion when one person does a screening and then just hands them off to somebody else. There's no relationship there. So that's my soapbox. I'm going to step off it now because I have very strong opinions about this. But I have not found anybody who can make a viable argument for sourcers screening candidates, except for either we don't have the bandwidth to do that or we're not set up with the right people to do that, both of which are just frankly shitty excuses for not doing what you need to do to maximize and optimize your performance.
Batman.
Talk to me.
So at what point, again, do you think sourcers should stop? You think they should message?
Sources do messaging and then hand off to a recruiter. Yep. So candidate writes back and says, yeah, this sounds awesome. Would love to chat. Hey, candidate. All right. This is Danielle Young. She's actually the rockstar recruiter who runs this role. Danielle, this is candidate, their title at company. I'll let you two take it from here. Peace. Yep. Any other questions before I move on here? Swell. I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Okay, now the meat and the potatoes of this presentation. Goals versus metrics versus KPIs. So I'm going to pose this as a question. Don't be afraid of getting this wrong because I just learned this like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, geez. Can anybody tell me the difference between a metric and a KPI or if they're the same thing? It involves you unmuting your microphone. Don't be afraid. I've got an hour and a half, so I'll just sit here. Anybody?
I'll take a stab at it.
Talk to me, Danielle.
I think KPIs are essentially you have goals on there though. So I think KPIs are like the goals. Metrics are how you're doing to get to those goals.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
scale, your metrics are net 30, fill rate or something of that nature. But your KPI is like something that you're working for the year or something like that.
Cool. Okay.
And where you
Okay.
can kind of indicate where you've been.
Okay. Not too shabby on that. Does anybody think that KPIs and metrics are the same thing? They're synonyms. I have the word versus on the screen, so like I imagine no one's going to be like, yep. Contrary to what you're presenting on, I think they're the same thing. So I actually learned they're not, and I've been using them for like 14 years interchangeably, whichever one sounded better in the moment. KPIs when I wanted to sound professional, metrics when I wanted to talk quickly. So here's the deal. Goal, pretty straightforward. We all know what this is. This is the end result, right? Like, hey, in 2021, we want to hire 100 people within the company. Cool, that's a goal. KPI, check this out. KPIs, yeah, Kimberly, nailed that actually. So KPI is the pulse. How are we doing towards that goal? So the way I like to think about it, and the reason I put pulse is, if somebody is in the hospital and they have 103-degree fever, you know that shit's bad. You just don't know what's bad, right? It doesn't tell a story. It's just, ready? An indicator of key performance, KPI, key performance indicator, right? So really important to understand that as leaders and as recruiters and sourcers, we want to keep track of KPIs, but we do not hold people accountable to KPIs because they do not tell a story. What does tell a story? Metrics. Metrics are tactical, as I think Kimberly said, metrics are quantifiable, KPIs are indicators. Yep, that's exactly right. Metrics are what you track to get the desired results. Yeah, David Marr, that's awesome. So metrics really come out to how well are we doing to achieve the KPIs so that we can hit our goal at the end of the year. And I'm going to go over specifically what those look like within the recruiting industry and the sourcing industry. Mark mentioned I found success in doing the sourcing and messaging and scheduling the phone screen on the recruiter's calendar. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That I completely agree. Anybody have questions about this before I keep going? Goal, KPI, metric. Great. So here's some examples. Goal, right? I just said 25 hires. KPIs, here's some examples. The number of responses, the number of interviews, the number of offers, right? Metrics, response rates, interviews to offer ratio. You're going to see ratio a lot or percentage a lot. So I'm going to go over specifically in a minute why I think companies and individuals make a huge mistake holding accountability to KPIs, but hopefully this gives a clear picture kind of as what I mean the difference between a KPI and a metric. Here is a list of all of the KPIs and metrics. I guess goals could be considered here too, but these are all of the metrics and KPIs that I could think of and that came through in the poll and the survey. These are mixed up between metrics and KPIs. I tried doing it from the very beginning of the process all the way through to hire and then the three post-hire not associated with the hire specifically. So let's look at sourcing metrics. When I think of sourcing metrics, again, I'm focusing on these two boxes, sourcing and messaging. Boom. We'll hit this, but like these are my big areas, the red ones, right? So all we got to do, let's focus on these areas and understand what we have to do to achieve results. Metrics have a percentage sign after them. If they don't, it's probably a KPI. There are 3 or 2 exceptions to this rule. Time to hire and net promoter score are 2 of them. Everything else has a percentage sign after it. Not metrics. These are your KPIs. If you are holding recruiters or sourcers accountable to any of the things in red, objectively, you're doing it wrong. Why do I say that? Because they don't actually matter. So I'm going to open the floor for a second, because if that didn't cause a buzz or any controversy, then I need to step up my game or swear more. Mary.
Yeah, so I have a question. So I understand that they don't necessarily matter, but have there been any, I mean, I would assume that there's some kind of correlation between the numbers of people that you send messages to or reach out to affecting the end result of hires, right?
Negative.
Okay.
Negative. No, it's a great question, right? Because people want to work backwards. Like, okay, cool. So how many placements? All right, great. Then based on the placements, how many manager interviews? Based on the manager interviews, how many submissions, qualification, call, messages, response rate, messages sent, profiles viewed. Totally get that. But here's the deal. Not everybody's the same. So there are going to be a bunch of people who have to send 200 messages to get 40 people to respond. You're going to have people on your team, though, who can send 60 messages and get 40 people to respond. So those people who send 60 super honed, awesome messages, they're getting a 75% response rate. Now, all of a sudden you're telling them, hey, you need to send 200 messages per week. And it's like, why? So the answer to your question is kind of. So I'm not saying don't track the things on the right. Definitely 100% track the things on the right. They are not the focus of measuring the efficacy or success of the people doing the actions, because they do not tell a story.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Questions? Dig deeper? Argue? I love arguing. No, really? I was kind of hoping for some. Okay, that's fine. I'll just keep going. One of the big things that these measure, and I probably have this slide in here already, so apologies if I'm repeating, metrics tend to show if you're working, or not metrics, excuse me, KPIs tend to share if you're working, metrics share how well you're working. All right, so you have two options when you're not getting the results you want, work harder or work smarter. I'm going to leave you to figure out which one of those is the better option. Yeah, David, sources shouldn't be tied to offers, accepts, or hires. I completely agree with that. So recruiting metrics. Now let's look at this end, right? We want to focus on just these three. Boom, recruiter metrics. These are the 5 I would focus on. Caveat on the time to hire. Good metric, but only 50% of it falls on the recruiter. 50% falls on the hiring manager and the business side also. So if you're actually grading a recruiter and doing yearly reviews, these would actually probably add up to like 90% between the 4 of them, and maybe 10% for time to hire. Right? But it's important. It does tell a story. Again, not metrics, same list. These are not metrics. They do not tell a story. You can have vastly different numbers here with vastly different levels of success that you're looking at. Prefer time to find versus time to fill. Yeah, that's a great point. So metrics, but why? So profiles viewed versus messaged. This is going to tell you a really good story about how well you're writing your Boolean. Searches run per search. This is going to tell you the efficacy of not only your Boolean, but your ability to message and get responses, your ability to understand the market. Your open rate just simply tells you how good is your subject line. Opens versus responses is going to tell you how good your message content actually is, right? Your response rate. Responses versus qualification calls. This is a really big one. If you're getting 100 responses a week and you're doing 10 calls a week, you're messaging the wrong people. That's a terrible turn rate, and it's a wild time suck to be responding to 90 people, updating the information in the ATS with no potential end result.
Hey, Batman.
Talk to me, Danielle.
Can you explain the difference? You have responses versus qualification calls.
Yeah.
You saying like a response, because then you have response rate.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what responses?
I would love to do this. So response rate, you send out 100 emails, 40 people reply to you, you have a 40% response rate. Now, of those 40 people who reply to you, 10 of them want to do qualification calls with you. That means you have a 25% conversion rate from the responses to the qualification calls. So we're just taking each step and then looking at the ratio to the next step in the process. Does that make sense? Yeah, if it makes sense, say a swear word. I'm reading your lips. You're not swearing at all.
Shit.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. I love making y'all text and swear. Cool. So qualification calls versus submissions. This is sharing A, your ability to sell the opportunity, B, your ability to target the right people for the job. More often than not, after qualification calls, the recruiter is the one who passes. The candidate happens, but isn't often the one who's like, yeah, you know what? Not right for me. I'll pass. Submissions versus interviews. This is a big one. This is, are you aligned with what your hiring manager is looking for? Do you actually know, right? Submissions versus offers tells you, are you aligned with your hiring manager at the level they need? Understanding that they need a Ruby React engineer who's worked with Golang and has some Kubernetes experience is one thing. Understanding the depth of that experience is another, because a resume may tell one story. Your actual screening may tell another. And here's my favorite. Interviews versus offers. This will tell you whether your hiring manager has a clue as to what they're doing as a hiring manager or not. And this will tell you if they have any idea of what the market actually looks like and can bear. I would love if when I had a plumbing issue, an astronaut came to fix my toilet. I'm probably going to hire a plumber, though. Hiring managers need to understand that same thing. So if they've interviewed 30 people and made no offers, it's that common denominator, right? Where you're like, I don't think it's me. I think it's you, right? Time to hire is a big one, but again, time to hire can be it can be caused for a various slew of different reasons. So it does tell a story, but you have to be really mindful, right? Was someone on vacation? Did they stop and start? Was there a holdup based on interview availability, et cetera, et cetera? And the last one I have here is passive versus active candidates, meaning how many of your placements or interviews or offers came from candidates who applied to your job? How many of them came from actively sourcing them from the market? Do I think sources metrics stop at response versus qualification calls and recruiters pick up from there? No, I think ultimately it would go to qualification calls versus submissions, because I could set up 30 qualification calls for a recruiter in a week. And if 3 of them turn into submissions, I'm not doing a good job. Beyond that, little tough for me to put it back on the sourcer at that point. But that piece should still be counted towards a sourcer's metric. Great question. So how do I do this? Everything in red, I use my ATS for. I use the word ATS pretty liberally because I do love Loxo and I use it for my retained searches, but my sourcing, I'm generally using spreadsheets because I love them. Any of these open response rate, all in an email automation tool. I'm using Sourcewell now, but any email automation tool should share this with you. I consider CRMs email automation tools that are covering up your previous bad habits, because I can't find a use case for, sorry, Jim, I know this is like cringing right now. I can't find a use case for a CRM if you have an email automation tool and you have an ATS that you weren't treating like shit. Now, most of the time I find people want a CRM, it's because their ATS is completely freaking useless because people were putting garbage in and they're like, I know, we'll just have a do-over, but not delete any of our ATS data. I'm like, yeah, sure, get a CRM. The stuff at the top of the funnel, you have to do manually. Yeah, that's fair. $6. You have to do manually, unfortunately. There's no way that you can look at the profiles viewed versus message or searches run per search via any other means than just tracking it on your own. I'll show you how we do it at Wayne Tech, but that's where like you got to have a nerdy sourcer, right? Loves their spreadsheets. So let's go into this. Profiles viewed versus messaged. How do we do this? I scrape all of the data. So I use Quickly. So if I'm on LinkedIn, right, I know we all use the Blue Devil. We don't like it, but we do it anyway. I use a tool called Quickly that scrapes everything out of LinkedIn. I'm going to caveat this by saying if LinkedIn is watching this, I personally don't do this because I know it's against your terms of service, but I have a friend who does this who will remain anonymous. Enjoy that. So I use Quickly, and instead of going profile by profile, I just download the entire search. That way I have all the data of how many profiles I actually looked at from my search. It actually lets me pull whatever data I want. It's super dope. If you know Andre Bradshaw, this is his tool. You just have to contribute to his Patreon and you have access. I think it's like $10 a month or something. And here's the data it pulls out. It's literally everything on their entire profile. It pulls out here. So I don't have to go profile by profile, right? I can just sort the data that I want and then eliminate it. So if I see someone who's in a job for less than 6 months, boom, eliminate it. I don't have to look at their profile. Just eliminate all of them. Nice and easy. So that again was specifically for profiles viewed versus messaged. I can actually tell you for every search I run the exact number of profiles I've looked at and the exact platforms that they came from. We even go one step further and we track every Boolean string we write. So I can tell you for whatever candidate, what platform they came from and what Boolean string on that platform we wrote to find that candidate because I love data. Searches per search. This is all about your Boolean efficiency and efficacy. So for this, I just mentioned, we save all our Boolean. If you look, every single search we run, we give a J, an N, or an M for Julia, Nikeo, and Mike. Those are the three of us. We number it and put where it came from. And then if you look, we save all of the Boolean for each of the platforms and we assign each of the candidates to the rev. When you're scraping them all out, it's super easy. You just do like R9 all the way down. Boom. Now you have all your candidates who came from that source. You can do this in an ATS too, by the way. If you put them in an ATS and you're willing to just keep track of the Boolean you wrote and the platform they came from, you have the same functionality. You could just use a tag, right? Or add a note against their profile. Does anybody have questions about that? This is probably the most like manual part of this process. If you are not a sourcer, you're probably looking again at spreadsheets and going, ugh, next. For anybody, yeah.
To be clear, when you're saving the Boolean string, is it because y'all are reusing them, or what was the purpose of saving the Boolean string?
For us saving it, or for you saying it? Saving it. They're different. I save it because I deliver it to my clients. So that way they can reuse the Boolean string themselves and they can see exactly what we searched for. We're a very big, like, show your work. This is like 5th grade math time, right? You can't just give the answer. I want to show you what we did. For internal folks, yeah, save your Boolean. 2 reasons. 1, yes, reuse it. More importantly, Doug, I want to see, hey, we just made, we're working on a Java engineer. I do a lot of technology, a Java engineer role, right? Or a CPA. We've been doing a bunch of CPAs. Hey, we actually got 3 hires from this one search, this one sprint, which is what we do. Where did they come from? Oh, well, 2 of them came from Seekout. 1 of them came from HireTool. Cool. On Seekout, what were we searching for that generated these results? So we can go back and actually say, hey, here's the type of search. Here are the type of terms that are going to generate the folks that we ultimately want to hire. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Hey, Batman, question for you.
What's up, Mark?
Mark here, yeah. How when you're saving these all these searches, all these Boolean strings, how granular do you get, right? So because sometimes you're doing a search and you might want to kind of rewrite or tweak it and try a little finagle it a little bit, right? And that there might be like 5-10 iterations of that one string that you end up kind of running with and looking through. So how granular do you get with saving these?
So we don't go profile by profile. So we'll tweak the Boolean string until we say, great, I'm going to export these profiles now. So, Will, you're right. I'll tweak my strings, 20, 30 times.
Yep.
Right. It takes me a good 20 minutes to write a Boolean string. So I'm doing the research and stuff. So once I'm finally like, boom, nailed it, got a good number of people, right? 100, 150 people. I'm like, okay, great. That's the Boolean string I said.
Cool. I expected that, right? Because if you did the first way, it'd be a lot.
That'd be a nightmare.
But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for the confirming. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike,
Lynn,
Mike,
do I have a? Oh, yeah.
Got a question.
Yes,
So, how do you know when enough results is enough? I mean, I think that, I know that you do, like for one company, you'll source, 10 of the same positions, right? But what's I guess it depends with each company, but what's your general recommendation on how many, when you get, is it 100 or less? Is it 200 or less?
Yeah, that would be a sweeping generalization for you to answer with a number. My answer to that is when I create my Boolean and I run my search, the answer is always less than 250. Always. If you're above 250, it's too much. I like mine to be, right, to David's point, under 200. I like mine to be closer to the 100 to 150 range, except for my very first search. My very first search, I'd rather go wider and just cast a wider net initially and whittle out. So what I describe when I say whittle out does not work efficiently unless you're doing it in a spreadsheet. I can cast a net for 300 people and then sort by how long they've been at the company, and immediately in 7 seconds, I eliminate 50 people, right? When they graduate college, right? They graduated college in 1942. Okay, boom, eliminated, right? Going to be too senior for the role. Also super impressive. And I can do that. So I'm eliminating people a lot faster. If that's not the way you're working, I highly suggest 100 people to 150. But the way that you tell is you write your string, and depending on what tool you're using, if you're using the Blue Devil, you can use their insights, but they suck, honestly. Instead, what I would do, I would look down the first page or two and just look at the folks you're getting. Do they look just at literally 5 seconds per page, just real quick scrolling down, titles, companies. Do they look like the right fit? Great, boom, you got it, move on. Right? Or are they a little all over the place? If they're a little all over the place, then, to Mark's point, you got to tighten up the Boolean a little bit. If you're getting too few people, it's because your Boolean is too tight, which is great. That means all you do is eliminate one and statement at a time and see where your roadblock is. You pull one and statement out, it goes from 20 to 30. It's not your roadblock. You pull this and statement out, it goes from 20 to 40, not your roadblock. You pull this and statement out, it goes from 20 to 300. That's your roadblock. Find a different way to state or look for that thing. Great. Thank you. Lynn asked, do I have resources to go to help create Boolean searches? No, I hate Boolean string builders. I use that. I do it myself. Happy to help if anybody wants to go over that at some point in the future. I've worked with data miner before, but I don't think they have the same detail available. Sherry, is there another tool I would suggest instead of Quickly? No, because IDS and data miner will not scrape LinkedIn. They have very particular rules against it. So Quickly doesn't actually scrape. You actually wind up again, if LinkedIn's watching, this is all hearsay. I don't know any of this. I read it online somewhere. Quickly actually hacks into the API of LinkedIn itself. So you're actually accessing it through the console, not scraping the page and pulling out the HTML elements. So very, very different. David Marr, I do have a spreadsheet that's a Boolean builder, just so far as I want these 100 things turned into an OR statement. I can plug it in, turns everything into an OR statement. Hire tool is expensive. It is expensive, but there's a use case for every tool, Michael Goldberg. You know this.
What's the rev on your spreadsheet?
Yeah, so we refer to rev. Each one of these is one rev. It stands for revolution. So revolution means we typed up a string and we exported the candidates. That's rev 1. Rev 2, we went to GitHub, typed in this string, boom, exported those. Revolution 3 went to hire tool. So it's just each iteration of our search. David, how do I usually find and learn about all these tools? I commit to doing 2 demos every month. Every month, I'll reach out to my network and be like, hey guys, what cool tools are out there? Right? I'll just look for people who are talking about it. And I reach out and I do 2 demos every single month. I'm telling you, I do not need another friggin' tool right now to use. But I do too, every month, just to stay on top of what's out there. Response rates, pretty straightforward. How good are your messages? Right. I think that's fairly direct. Hopefully I don't have to go into this too much. There's some cool stats from some papers I read. How do I track it? I use Sourcewell. It just literally tells me your response rate. It's pretty straightforward. Active versus passive. So this one, guys, is hugely important. This will be tracked in your ATS where your candidate source location is. So the screening calls, it's funny you say that, David. He said I need to share my acronym for screening calls. I'm actually doing an entire training tomorrow at HRTX on qualification calls. It's free. So if that's a thing you want, join me. I'll give it to you. So active versus passive, guys. I do not post jobs at all. I haven't posted a job in like 5 years. Why? Because I actually looked at the amount of time I spend dealing with applicants versus the outcome of how many of them I place. And I realized I was having to spend, even as an agency, 30 to 40% of my time dealing with the number of applicants and putting them into the ATS and then responding to all of them and updating their information. And I realized like less than 10% of my placements came from that channel. So I was wasting a shit ton of time, right? So why do we look at active candidates, right? And if you're thinking like, well, 50% of our placements come from active candidates, cool. How much of your time is spent there? Because if it's 80%, you're losing money. That's a bad business decision. They have to be in a close corollary to one another, active versus passive. Same thing in reverse, right? If you're spending 50% of your time sourcing, but 80% of your fills comes from people applying to your jobs, work out a better strategy for applying your jobs, right? Or for posting your jobs and getting attraction there. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to pause for like 10 seconds, see if anybody has any questions so far. David, does doing 2 demos a month mean receiving them from various tool vendors? Yes. I typically want them, and I'm pretty rough to do a demo for. I guess I'm pretty rough in general, but doing a demo for, I want them to show me the tool, and I let them know like, hey, I want you to physically do the clicking and stuff, but I'm actually going to tell you what I want you to do. I don't want you to tell me how you think your tool should work. I want to explore how I would use your tool. So yeah, no reason to post jobs anymore. Just share social media. I agree. I don't think there's a reason to post jobs anymore. But you know, that's just me. Interview lifecycle time. I think this is pretty straightforward. This is that time to hire, right? Just got to track where you start and where you end. Most of this should be able to be done in an ATS. The problem ultimately winds up being how good is the data that you're putting in terms of when you actually started sourcing on the role versus when did it open. Batman, how do I find the sourcing tool vendors? I just spoke to a shit ton of people. Lajai spoke to, let's see, Eric Jakewith, Dean DaCosta, Derek Zeller. I met Nintran at a conference, Jeremy Roberts. I met Matt Chambers, Loxo. I don't remember how the hell I got in touch with them. Schleifer from Chatterworks reached out to me. So just ask, right? Like, I'm a pretty good person to ask about that because I use all of them. So like, there's my LinkedIn address. Just, you know, like message me. I'll give you a list of ones to check out. Measuring the nose. This is a huge deal, guys. And no one does this. It's super frustrating for me. Not for me. Super frustrating to look at other people who are completely wasting their time. And I'm gonna show you this on LinkedIn right now. I'm gonna go live and do this, which I wasn't planning on doing, but it's actually such a peeve point for me that I'm gonna show you. So yes, I do have a seat with the Blue Devil. I have to. I do recruiter training. I have to have a seat on this stupid platform. So when we are searching for folks, this is typically what we're doing, right? Like tax auditor, boom. Great. We want that to be current. We want this to, I'm just trying to get a smaller search so it's a little more manageable. CPA and Detroit and I don't know what the hell is it, Great Plains. Yeah, I thought that might be a little rough. 13 results. We'll open it up a little more. Sorry. I just want to make sure that I can show you guys accurately what this does. Industries, I don't know, let's do telecom maybe. Nope, I'm failing pretty hard right now. It's great. So 953 results. We'll pretend this number is lower. Most people go through here and they do this thing. And if this isn't what you do, I really want you to tell me because I would be surprised. You'd be one of the first people ever. You're going down and you're like, well, Ahmed, nope, not a choice. Bianca, yep, you might be a choice. You see it, nope, not a choice. Yep, you look good. Yep, you look good. You look good. Nope, you don't look good. You look good, right? And you're going to go down. And you're going to go down the whole page. And you're going to do this whole thing and do this, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then you're going to add them to a project. Is that right? Does anybody do anything different than this? Besides not using the blue devil, of course. Okay, ready? DFWTRN test. Good results. You can't add them to the clipboard anymore. Clipboard doesn't exist. Yeah. Maybe in like Sales Nav or Light, but I don't even think it exists in Light anymore. That used to be my go-to too. It was fantastic. And then they eliminated the clipboard because LinkedIn hates you. Not you specifically, you being the general population of the earth. So guys, you're going to then go to page 2, right? And then you're going to do the same thing. As you're going down, you're going to select the people who look good, boom, 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 and you're going to add them to a project. And you're going to do this through the entire search that you've done, right? We all add them to the project, DFWTRN, great. Okay, so check this out. You're now going to come back after going through these 900 freaking people, and you're going to run a different search. Maybe you don't want to do tax auditor. Maybe you want to do tax audit. Just leave it at tax audit specifically. Okay. Ready? Question. How do you eliminate the people you just looked at? Not the ones who are a yes. That one's easy. How do you eliminate all the other people you looked at already and passed on?
I know.
Do you? Talk to me, Danielle.
I think you go down to advanced and you select.
And you're going to go hide profiles I've already viewed, right?
Yes.
Okay, here's the deal.
Or add it. No, the project one.
Okay, so if you go to projects here and you type in the one you just did, right? DFW, and then you exclude.
Yes, and then you select. Yep, like that.
Okay, but then what about the other candidates that you didn't put into the project because they weren't the right fit, who are now showing up all over again? So for everyone who's saying hide previously viewed, that only counts if you open their profile. You have to physically look at the profile here. Otherwise, it doesn't count as a view. Also, it only shows the ones that you've viewed. So if your teammate's working on the same role, you're going to look at the crap they didn't want to look at also. Filters does not do it. There's an easy way to handle this situation so that you guys don't ever have to do this again. Ready? You're going to go down the page. Start the same way, run the search. Boom. Going down the page. Looks good, looks good. Doing the same thing. These folks look good. These folks look good. That is excellent. Awesome. Great. You add them to the project, except here's the thing. You're going to create a project called DFWTRN, whatever you call it, your role, right? Role. Good candidates, or whatever the hell you want to call it, right? And then ready? Watch this. Select all. Save to project. Create new. DFWTRN. Master. Save. And you do that on every page. So when you go to the next page, you're going to scroll down and you're going to add the people to the good project, right? These folks look good. Yeah. Oh, I want to message all these folks. They look great. Save to the project, the DFW one where you say good candidates. And then again, select everybody and add them to the master project. Why do we do this? Because then in the future, when you go back and want to run a search again, you literally add DFWTRN master project here and eliminate it. So you never have to look at a single person that you've already looked at their profile for. It is a huge time saver that no one does. And you just wind up looking at the same crappy candidates you passed on over and over again. So please do that moving forward. It'll save you a buttload of time.
Wait, create so many projects.
Why do I create so many projects?
Just to show us, so you have the good results, master, and then you
The
did
first one, the
another
other one was
too.
just going through showing you how most
Okay.
people do the search. I always have two: the candidates I want to message and everybody. The candidates I want to message, I add into that project, and then everyone on the page I add into the master project.
Oh, okay.
So that way you can hide the master project. So I'm not looking at all the folks I already passed on. Also, your team can do that because you can share the project. So you're not looking at folks your other teammates have passed on. Thank you. I hope that helps people and save some time in the future. Also, if you're using LinkedIn Recruiter, stop it. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that right now. So we actually track on our spreadsheets why candidates are a no. I highly encourage, if you've got a big spreadsheet fan on your sourcing team, we always track this. So we can share with our clients like, hey, we looked at 536 profiles. We gave you 200 of them. Here's why we passed on the 336. And we can share exactly why. So that way we know, hey, in the future, we had a bunch of people whose titles didn't match up. We got to do a better job with our Boolean matching up titles, right? It's just good data. We keep track of different platforms. I highly suggest this. I assume everyone's doing this. If not, holy crap, that sucks. Mark, do I do that manually? Yes, but remember, I use spreadsheets. So like I can sort by a title. And if I'm looking for a software engineer, anybody with the title manager of or director of, eliminated. Boom, title doesn't match, right? DevOps, title doesn't match. So I do that very, very quickly and in bulk. So we keep track of platforms people come from. I know a ton of people say like, well, we made a bunch of placements off LinkedIn. It works really well for us. I'm like, great. How much time are you spending there? How many profiles are you looking there? Right? Well, I looked at 1,000 profiles and I made a placement. It's like, okay. I looked at 1,000 profiles and made 10 placements. Great. But you looked at like 18 profiles on Seekout and made a placement. So which one's a better use of your time, right? Instead of looking at the numbers, you have to look at the conversion rate. I'm going to promise to go a little bit faster. Sorry, guys, I talk a lot. So if you look, we keep track of exactly how many people came from each platform for each role. Why do we do that? Because I want to know downstream which of the platforms was actually the most successful, because it's not always the one where you sourced the most candidates. Sometimes it's actually a different tool that has the longer term effect. Very important to note. Doug, I got your message. Thank you. So ideal capture setup, this is what I explained to everybody. You have a sourcing data platform. It's usually a spreadsheet. There's nothing else out there yet. It's on my 5-year plan to build a tool that does this. So you can source from anywhere and normalizes your data. And then everything goes into a messaging platform, and then everything goes into your ATS. That way data is normalized, it's tracked, and everything goes through the same workflow. So all data is captured. This is what our sourcing data platform looks like. We have a ton of data on here. That's actually half the sheet. There's the other half. So we track everything because I want to, if you're wondering what it says, that's what we track. Because we want to know what's effective, what's not effective, where are we finding people. And we want to be able to report back to our clients. For you guys to be the hiring managers, we want to report to our clients, hey, here's what we're seeing on the market. Right? I know you wanted somebody in the San Francisco area, but based on what you're looking for, here's the breakdown of locations, right? Or I know you think that you need a computer science degree, but you loved these 10 people. They don't have a CS degree, right? Let me show you that actual data. So I recommend Amazing Hiring and which other sourcing websites besides LinkedIn. I don't recommend any sourcing websites. It is completely dependent on your situation. So where are you located? What are you sourcing for? What does your sourcing workflow look like? What other tools are you using? How good are you at writing Boolean? How many roles are you working? Are you spray and pray or a sniper? Like all of those different things come into play. There is zero right choice. My favorite for me is Seekout. Above and Beyond is my absolute favorite. But there is no right or best tool. There are just tools. By having such large G sheets, it makes my system run really slow. No. It doesn't, because the way that we work when in the sheets that have all of the data, those massive ones that you see, we have zero formulas or anything in there. The only thing we have is data validation for that exact reason. I can nerd out with you about spreadsheets another time. Again, sourcing, we use messaging, we use Sourcewell. We find it's just the best in terms of its capabilities and deliverability. And for Loxo, for ATS, we use Loxo. It's just the most customizable. Which for me is really important because I'm a needy bitch and I need to do exactly what I want to do. So final thought around data. Yeah, sorry, I'm unabashed about it. So final thought, I always like to tell a personal story to end, and I'll save with like 5 minutes to spare based on my later projected time. Thanks, Doug. So guys, data is brutal in the beginning. It is time consuming, and you are not going to see the results that you want right away. It's not the purpose of data. It's not to make things super quick and super easy for you now. The goal of data is simply to get you in the future to make better decisions. So it is painful as you start to go through this. I'm not going to BS you and say it's easy or it'll come simply. The way that I discovered I love data and iteration came, of course, inspired by most great things, my wife. So when we moved into our house, we have a massive walk-in closet in our bedroom. And I gave it all to my wife because I'm not stupid. And so she has the entire closet. It's that gross carpet you see on the floor. And the dogs, when they get angry at us, used to pee in her closet to smite us because they are adorable, but they are smart and vengeful. So she said at some point, hey, I want to rip up the carpet in my office and I want to stain the concrete. And I said, hey, I can do that. Instead of paying someone $2,000 and having them here all weekend, I'll do it. Caveat to that. I've never changed a car tire. I've never built a piece of furniture from IKEA. I'm in my mid-30s. My parents still don't trust me with power tools. So like, I'm that guy. I will cook an amazing dinner. Not going to build you shit. It's not my jam. But my wife, being supportive and awesome, went, okay, yeah. Okay, great. So long story short, it took me 4 weeks to finish it. It took well over $2,000 for me to do it. And we actually had to sleep out of the house one night because I used too much acid etcher in the closet and the house was like a toxic smell. So miserable experience. But at the end of the day, I delivered it to her and boom, floor looked exactly how she wanted. Stained concrete, epoxy finish over the top. She loved it. I was like, great. I messed up every step of the way, gathering the data around how to do this. So 6 months later, when she said, hey, I want to rip up the carpet in my office and stain the concrete, I said, shit, okay, cool. And it took me 2 weeks to do this, to which I then said, you know what? I don't want the carpet in my office either. I'm going to rip it up and I'm going to do mine. And it took me less than 1 week to do my floors. So the point of me sharing all this outside of showing off my awesome office is to say in the beginning, it's painful. It's difficult to do this. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of effort. But in the long run, you're going to get better and more efficient at not just collecting the data, but using the data to operate more efficiently. So just because it hurts and it sucks and it's uncomfortable, don't stop, stick with it, acquire the data and learn that in the long run, you're going to be way better off. So with that, I will open the floor for any, for any questions.
Hey, Batman, Mark here again.
What's up, Mark?
Hey, are you familiar with Interstellar as well? I know you use Sourcewell, but
love Interstellar. Yep, Stephen Liu's
Okay.
a buddy of mine. I've been on that platform for about 5 years. It was my go-to before Sourcewell.
Okay, so I trialed it recently. I'm now trialing Sourcewell. Sourcewell seems to be superior for my limited use thus far, but are there any features or areas where Interstellar is superior?
Yeah, I know what you meant. So Interstellar, the big thing Interstellar has is deliverability. Sourcewell is like it 95% of Interstellar's capabilities of deliverability. Interstellar's just more established. So they're less like weird quirks, like your ability to like pause a campaign. Interstellar has the ability to pause it. Sourcewell didn't think about the ability of like pausing it to stop and then restarting it again. But Tim and Harry are super quick to add and make changes. So like, have you seen the image modifications?
I have, yeah, with the variables.
Okay. So that didn't exist in January. I told them in January, hey, I need this. And 2 weeks later, there was the functionality. So
nice.
They're super quick to adjust on that shit.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep. What else?
Hey, Batman.
So, what's that, Shoots?
Hey. What was the Chrome extension scraper that you mentioned? You said Quickly?
Quickly. QUICKLI. And you get it through Andre Bradshaw's Patreon. So I'm actually going to open it and I'll just put the link in here. So you do have to pay for his Patreon. So you're basically like donating like $5 or $10 a month or something like that. And you get access to all of his tools and cool stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And he's an amazing human who we want to support anyway.
Will do.
Great. What else, y'all?
Mike, I got a question for you. With your sourcing tools, do you have any sourcing tools that pulls back resumes, or one that pulls back the entire like resume itself?
No, that would be I think the only ones that do that consistently are job boards, which I'm very anti. Yeah, okay. It's usually determined by their public presence. And truth be told, most people update their public presence way more than their resume. And the only time you're typically going to find someone's resume online outside of doing just a straight up file type search, a command search in Google, is when they're actively looking for a job. Right, that's when people are updating and posting resumes places. So for me, I avoid the active candidates. I'm typically going for passive. And my logic, believe it or not, Doug, is I assume that my sourcing is good enough that if the candidate's the right fit for the job, I'm going to source them anyway. I don't need them to apply. I don't need to look on a job board. I'll find them and reach out to them because they're the right fit.
Okay.
Yes. Good question. What else? Time for 2 more questions. Make them count. There's no dumb questions. That's not true. Most questions aren't dumb. That's also probably not true.
What does your wife do for a living?
Oh, David, it's a great question, man. Also, I love that you're sitting exactly like Napoleon Dynamite behind you. So my wife works for Mercer HR. She's involved in their go-to-market sales and operations strategy. She's a principal, runs a team over there in their mobility group. Another good question. Yes. One more question. Hit me with it. Don't be shy. Or, be shy, whatever. It's your...
Mike, I'll ask you another question. If we wanted to continue to learn from your sourcing strategies, what would we do? Find you at different conferences like the one that Michael Goldberg had discussed? Do you have particular ones that you put on or training sessions, anything like that?
Yeah. So during what I call conference season, which runs from like middle of February through the end of April, and then from very beginning of September through the end of October, I'm speaking at least once every week, typically twice a week at different webinars and conferences. So you can follow me. I post about them most of the time. I'm actually pretty shitty about that. So follow HRTX. They're putting on the conference tomorrow. Having a bunch of speakers come in. It's free. So sign up and hang out. Honestly, the best thing you can do is just ping me. I have a Discord channel. I'm going to put the link to join it right in here. ch/Discord. You have to download Discord first. It is a chat program. It's like Slack, only it's actually better than Slack. We've got about like 360 recruiters and sourcers and leaders from around the world. And we just chat all day. So people who want to grab me and ask me questions or jump on a really quick screen share and like go over what they're doing and stuff, just grab me on there. It's like the quickest way to get free access to me for questions and training. Or, I do training if you want to fork out a bunch of money. I'm okay with that also.
Perfect.
Cool.
I learned a lot. I just wish we had you for a lot longer.
Yeah. Sorry. I am what my English teacher in high school would call loquacious, which is a nice way of saying I like the sound of my own voice. So, yep. What else?
Batman, I echo what was just said. I've learned a ton from you. It's been very, very illuminating. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you clarified, because I thought you were echoing the fact that I love the sound of my own voice, which I wasn't going to argue with you because it's true. But yes, I'm glad I was able to help. And please, guys, when I say like reach out, ping me, happy to jump on calls and stuff like that. I really, really am. My company's mission is to be the rising tide that lifts all boats in this space. That's not bullshit. Everyone on my team, myself, Julia, Nikea, we all donate between 2 and 6 hours every week to meet with people and help however we can. So just ping. Happy to connect however we can.
Well, awesome. Well, we appreciate your time today. If no one else has any other questions, I will go ahead and give the drawing winners out. They already know this, but Eric Krischer, Sherry Carr, and Nazo Haruditan. I'm sure I butchered that, but you guys have won a free membership with DFWTRN, and we're very excited that each and every one of you came out today. Wish you guys the best. And if there's anything we can offer you or any assistance we can do for you at DFWTRN, reach out to info@DFWTRN. One of the board members will be watching that and get back to you. We really appreciate y'all's time today, and expect to see y'all in the next few months. We do have some additional speakers coming up. Matthew Narrowing, Cindy Davis, I think Jim and Gail are going to get, Jim Snyder and Gail Houston are going to, speak at one of our events. I think Craig Fisher's coming back. So, guys, we'll see y'all next month, and thank y'all for y'all's time today.
Bye.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye, everybody. You're welcome.
Bye. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.